Hello there, ATS EVS 533 students. Dr. John Schrage here. I'm working busily on Module 4 of our class, and I always look forward to this module of the class, even though it's a little bit hard to assign a name to what this module of the class is called. I'm calling it something like Learning to Adapt to Climate Change or something like that. But basically, we have a couple of topics in here. I want to talk about what are we going to have to adapt to and how kind of adaptations are possible and so on. The first couple of lectures are going to be about like the internal variability of the climate system and what that means for regional climate change. We're going to talk about like the kind of natural processes that produce internal variability in our climate system, stuff like El Nino, monsoons, the quasi-biennial oscillation. We're going to learn if there's any reason to think that those internal sources of variability are going to be modified by the forced sources of climate variability, things like greenhouse gases or anthropogenic aerosols or Milankovitch cycles or whatever. That's all really important, and we're going to see how that comes together to tell us something important about regional climate change and how regional climate change, how the climate will actually change in individual regions, turns out to be a vastly more complicated problem than what we saw with regard to global climate change. We're going to talk about the different things that complicate the issues of regional climate change. We're going to focus in particular on some ways in which there are land use effects that can make regional climate change very difficult to predict. We're going to talk about the oasis effect and the clothesline effect. And in part because those are really cool names. Then we're going to see how that starts having regional climate effects that, well, they're going to be important. We're going to see why they're important. But we're going to find out that actually at the present time, our state of our knowledge of what, other than in the Arctic, the whole business of the Arctic and its ice albedo impacts and so on, the feedbacks, that's pretty well understood. But in general, how the climate will change in Nebraska versus other parts of the Midwest is actually something we're not very good at understanding at the present time. So we're going to have these regional effects like that. Then we're going to start talking about like mitigation and adaptation and especially geoengineering strategies. Not because some of these things, especially the geoengineering ones, are particularly practical, but because, I mean, we're in a class about physics. We're in a physical climatology class. What kind of things could we do to make a change in our climate system? A change for the good. I guess we've been making changes all along. What are the different strategies that could be used? How techniques could be used? How practical are they, etc.? We dipped our toes a little bit in that in the second module of the course, but now we're going to take a much more structured approach to it. We're going to learn a great deal more about the methods that are at our disposal and what the consequences would be and how practical they are and so on. So overall, this is a pretty interesting way to wrap up the course. Please let me know if you have any questions as we go along, and I'm looking forward to it.